The observation deck of the Galactic Council station buzzed with activity as Commander Varrell of the Tarkonian Empire watched the blue marble called Earth spin lazily below. His violet eyes tracked the swirling white clouds, and he couldn't help the dismissive click that escaped his mandibles. Primitive, he muttered to his second-in-command. A reptilian screeth named Jalix. Their technology is barely adequate for interstellar travel. Their biology is laughable. No exoskeleton, no venom glands, not even decent claws. Jalix's forked tongue tasted the air thoughtfully. The preliminary reports are interesting though, Commander. Earth apparently had numerous apex predators. Past tense. The humans eliminated most of them. Stupidity, Varrell snapped. Destroying your own ecosystem's balance? Typical short-sighted mammals. Perhaps, Jalix replied, pulling up a holographic file. But there's a note here from the xenobiology team. They flagged something unusual. The humans are bringing a companion animal to the assessment. For emotional support, they claim. Varell's laugh was like grinding gears. Emotional support? What kind of warrior species needs emotional support animals? This confirms everything. They're weak. Before Jalix could respond, the doors hissed open. A young Tarkonian ensign practically stumbled in, his carapace pale with nervousness. Commander, the human delegation has arrived. They're waiting in conference room Theta. Excellent. Varrell straightened his ceremonial sash. Let's meet these predator killers and their comfort pet. The conference room was standard council design, accommodating various atmospheric needs. 3 humans sat at the curved table. Ambassador Marcus Reeves, an older male with silver hair and calculating eyes. Dr. Aisha Okonkwo, a woman with warm brown skin and a tablet in her hands. And a broad-shouldered man named Jake Hollis, whose neck was nearly as thick as his head. But what caught Varell's attention was the 4th member of their party. A small creature, maybe 2 feet long, with a black body, white stripe down its back, and the most absolutely unimpressed expression Varrell had ever seen on a living thing. It sat on the table, calm as you please, occasionally scratching behind its ear with a hind leg. What? Varrell said slowly. Is that? This is Rambo, Jake said with obvious pride. He's a honey badger. A what? Doctor. Okonkwo smiled. Mellivora capensis. Native to Earth, specifically Africa, and parts of Asia. He's here as part of our delegation. Varrell looked at the creature called Rambo. Rambo looked back with eyes that suggested he'd seen better specimens than Varrell, and found them all equally boring. The honey badger yawned, showing surprisingly impressive teeth. You brought a pet to a council assessment? Jalix asked, incredulous. Not a pet, Marcus corrected gently. A colleague. It's an animal. So are we all, technically speaking, Doctor. Okonkwo said cheerfully. But Rambo here represents something important about Earth. About survival. About what happens when you build yourself to simply not care what the universe throws at you. Varrell was about to respond when Rambo suddenly moved, faster than anything that small had a right to move, snatching a stylus from Jalix's hand and examining it with scientific curiosity before dropping it dismissively. Did it just steal from me? Jalix hissed. He's curious. Jake shrugged. Honey badgers are like that. Smart, fearless, and perpetually annoyed at everything. Fearless, Varrell repeated. You mean stupid. There's a difference between bravery and not understanding danger. Marcus leaned forward, his eyes glinting. Commander, with respect, Rambo understands danger perfectly. He just doesn't care. That's rather the point of bringing him. You see, honey badgers have a reputation on Earth. There's an old saying, honey badger don't care. Don't care about what? Anything. Lions, leopards, venomous snakes, porcupines, bees, humans. Nothing intimidates a honey badger. They've been documented, fighting off entire prides of lions, surviving bites from some of the deadliest snakes on our planet, and raiding beehives despite being stung thousands of times. They have incredibly loose skin, so when something bites them, they can twist around and attack back. They're smart enough to use tools, and they have a documented resistance to almost every venom on our planet. Varrell stared at the small creature, who was now cleaning his paws with complete disinterest in the conversation about him. That thing fights lions? Wins, sometimes, Jake added. Honey badgers are pound for pound one of the most fearsome animals Earth ever produced. The Guinness Book of World Records listed them as the most fearless creature on the planet. Impossible. It's tiny. Rambo chose that moment to make a sound, a growling, hissing, absolutely enraged noise that made everyone in the room except the humans flinch. The honey badger's lips pulled back, showing teeth that suddenly looked a lot more threatening. He doesn't like being called tiny, Jake translated. Or maybe he's just hungry. Hard to tell. Rambo's perpetually angry about something. Jalix had backed up several feet. That noise. What was that? Hey, that's how honey badgers communicate displeasure, Doctor. Okonkwo explained, pulling up a video on her tablet. Here, let me show you some footage from Earth. The holographic display showed a honey badger attacking a cobra. The snake struck, fangs sinking deep. The honey badger paused, looked mildly annoyed, killed the snake anyway, ate part of it, then took a nap while the venom worked through its system. 2 hours later it woke up and finished eating the snake. It survived a cobra bite? Varrell demanded. Honey badgers have evolved resistance to venom from cobras, vipers, and dozens of other species. The venom might slow them down, make them drowsy, but it rarely kills them. They've adapted, survived, thrived in an environment full of things trying to kill them. Another video showed a honey badger raiding a beehive, completely ignoring thousands of bee stings, tearing apart the hive with its powerful claws to get at the honey inside. A third showed one facing down a pack of wild dogs, refusing to back down, fighting with such vicious determination that the dogs eventually left. This creature, Varrell said slowly, is from the same planet as you? Yep, Marcus nodded. And before you ask, no, we didn't make honey badgers extinct. We learned pretty quickly that it's easier to just leave them alone. They're not interested in destroying humanity, and we're not stupid enough to pick fights with something that considers lions a minor inconvenience. Rambo made another sound, softer this time, and Jake produced what looked like a piece of dried meat from his pocket. The honey badger took it delicately, almost politely, before devouring it in 3 quick bites. So, you brought this creature here. Why? Exactly? Varrell asked. Because, Dr. Okonkwo said, her smile gaining an edge. When you assess humanity, you need to understand what we come from. Earth didn't produce one apex predator. It produced dozens, hundreds, and then it produced something even more dangerous. Animals that simply refuse to be prey, no matter what the food chain said. Honey badgers are one example. Humans are another. You're comparing yourselves to that? Jalix gestured at Rambo, who was now upside down on the table, apparently trying to see if the world looked more interesting from that angle. We're saying we learned from them, Marcus corrected. Watch a honey badger long enough, you understand survival. It's not about being the biggest or the strongest. It's about being too stubborn to quit, smart enough to adapt, and mean enough that even apex predators think twice before picking a fight. Varrell felt his confidence wavering, which annoyed him immensely. Fine. Your pet is moderately impressive for something so small, but that doesn't prove humanity is ready for council membership. We still have the standard survival assessment, 2 hours in Biodome 7, 3 objectives, various hostile encounters. If you fail, your application is denied for another century. Understood. Marcus nodded. Rambo comes with us, of course. What? No. The assessment is for your species, not your animals. Rambo is part of our delegation, Dr. Okonkwo said firmly. He goes where we go. He'll be killed. The biodome contains predators from across the galaxy, Class 4 threats and higher. Jake grinned. Yeah, they should probably be worried about that. The predators should be worried? About that? Varrell pointed at Rambo, who had found a reflective surface and was trying to fight his own reflection. Commander, Marcus said quietly, let me tell you something about honey badgers. There's a story, might be apocryphal, but it captures the essence. A researcher was studying them in Africa. He'd put out camera traps, tracking their movements. One day, he found a honey badger had gotten into his locked equipment case, not just opened it, destroyed the lock, dragged everything out, and taken a nap inside the case just to prove a point. When asked how the badger defeated a combination lock, the researcher said, I don't think he defeated it. I think the lock just gave up. Rambo chose that moment to emit a satisfied grunt and curl up in what looked like an uncomfortable position, instantly falling asleep. His little chest rose and fell, and he looked almost peaceful. Almost. Varrell looked at the honey badger, then at the confident humans, then at Jalix, who had pulled up more files on Earth's fauna and looked increasingly disturbed by what she was reading. Fine, he said finally. Your comfort animal can accompany you. But when it becomes a liability, don't expect us to pause the assessment for rescue. Rescue? Jake laughed. Commander, by the end of this, you're going to be more worried about rescuing your Biodome specimens from Rambo. 2 hours later, they stood at the entrance to Biodome 7. The massive facility stretched before them. A carefully controlled ecosystem, combining elements from a dozen death worlds. Through the reinforced panels, Varrell could see dense jungle, rocky terrain, and several very large shapes moving through the shadows. Standard rules apply, Varrell announced to the gathered observers. Several council members had come to watch, word having spread about the unusual human delegation. 2 hours. Locate the beacon in Sector 4, retrieve a water sample from Sector 7, return to extraction. You may bring basic survival equipment, no advanced weapons. The humans geared up. Sturdy clothing, rope, water containers, basic tools. Jake grabbed a thick walking stick. Dr. Okonkwo had her scanner. Marcus carried what looked like a machete. Rambo woke up, stretched in a way that shouldn't have been anatomically possible, and waddled toward the Biodome entrance like he owned the place. Is the animal even trained? Asked a Krogian general, his chitinous plates gleaming. Trained? Jake snorted. Rambo does what Rambo wants. We just try to point him in useful directions. This is madness, the general muttered. The Biodome doors opened with a pneumatic hiss, and the humans entered, Rambo trotting alongside them with the confidence of someone who'd never lost a fight and didn't plan to start now. Varrell settled into the observation room, multiple holographic screens showing different angles of the Biodome. This should be educational, he said. Let's see how long they last. The humans moved through the initial jungle section with practiced efficiency, Marcus leading, Dr. Okonkwo scanning, Jake covering the rear. Rambo wandered wherever he pleased, occasionally stopping to dig at something interesting or mark his territory. First obstacle releasing, announced the Biodome AI. Sector 2 Predator active. From the dense foliage emerged a Venrek, a six-legged killing machine from the outer rim. Purple fur, serrated claws, glowing yellow eyes. It was the size of an earth lion and had a recorded kill count in the thousands. The Venrek spotted the humans and growled, a sound that resonated in the chest. The humans froze, assessing the threat. Rambo kept walking. The honey badger hadn't noticed the predator, or more accurately, had noticed and simply didn't care. He was investigating a fallen log, digging at it with his powerful claws, completely ignoring the Class 4 threat 20 feet away. The Venrek's attention shifted to this small, inattentive creature, easy prey. It began stalking closer, muscles bunching for the pounce. Oh no, Jalix breathed. The animal doesn't see it. Should we extract them? Asked one of the observers. Wait, Marcus said through his communication device, though standard protocol said humans shouldn't be able to transmit during assessment. Just wait. The Venrek lunged. Rambo spun with impossible speed, and suddenly the predator wasn't attacking prey. It was in a fight. The honey badger's loose skin saved it from the initial bite, allowing Rambo to twist and sink his teeth into the Venrek's sensitive nose. The predator shrieked, jerking back, but Rambo held on like a furry vice grip. Then things got violent. Rambo released, dodged a claw swipe that should have disemboweled him, and went for the Venrek's eyes. The predator backed up, confused. Nothing this small had ever fought back. Nothing this small had ever hurt it. Rambo made that horrifying, growling, hissing sound, the one that seemed to bypass rational thought and speak directly to the prey animal hindbrain. He charged, a 2-foot ball of absolute fury, and the Venrek made a decision. It ran. A Class 4 predator fled from a creature 1/20th its size. The observation room exploded in shocked chatter. Replay that, Varrell demanded. They watched it again, and again. Each time, the result was the same. The honey badger had decided violence was the answer, and the Venrek had decided violence was someone else's problem. Rambo, satisfied with his victory, went back to investigating the log. He'd found termites. What? the Provisional general said slowly. Was that, Dr. Okonkwo's voice came through, was a honey badger demonstrating why Earth has no predators left. They don't fight to win. They fight to make you regret ever seeing them. And they never, ever quit. The humans continued deeper into the biodome, Rambo alternating between following them and wandering off to investigate interesting smells. They navigated a toxic marsh, Rambo apparently immune to the noxious plants that made the humans cough. They crossed a ravine, Jake carrying the honey badger who looked deeply offended at needing help. And then they reached Sector 7, where the real test waited. The water source in Sector 7 gleamed under artificial sunlight, a pool of crystalline liquid that looked almost inviting. Almost. Varrell leaned forward in the observation room, his mandibles clicking with anticipation. Now we'll see them fail, he muttered. The deepwater lurker in that pool has never lost an encounter. 12 feet of tentacles, barbed suckers, venom sacs, and a beak that can crush titanium alloys. Jalix pulled up the creature's specifications on her display. It's from Thalassos Prime, ambush predator. Waits until prey enters the water, then drags them down. The humans need a sample from the pool's center. They'll have to swim. The Provisional general leaned back, satisfied. Finally, reality catches up with them. On screen, the humans approached the pool cautiously. Marcus knelt at the edge, studying the water's surface. Dr. Okonkwo ran her scanner, shaking her head at whatever readings she got. There's something big in there, she said, her voice carrying through the observation feed. Really big. Biological readings suggest a cephalopod-type organism with significant mass. Can we get the sample without going in? Marcus asked. Jake examined the pool's dimensions, then shook his head. Too deep, too far. Someone's got to swim. Rambo had been exploring the rocky shore, turning over stones with his snout. Now he approached the water's edge, sniffing curiously. The honey badger dipped one paw in, testing the temperature, then looked back at the humans as if asking what the holdup was. Don't even think about it, buddy, Jake warned. Rambo thought about it. Then, with the deliberation of someone making a point, he waded into the water. No! Dr. Okonkwo lunged forward, but the honey badger was already swimming, his little legs paddling efficiently toward the pool's center. That animal just signed its death warrant, Varrell said, almost feeling bad about it. The creature had been entertaining, at least. The water's surface remained calm. Rambo reached the center, dove under, and emerged moments later with something small and metallic in his mouth. The sample container they'd been meant to retrieve. How did he know what to grab? Jalix wondered. Honey badgers are tool users, Dr. Okonkwo explained, watching her scanner with growing alarm. They understand object permanence and goal-oriented behavior. But Commander, you need to understand something. That lurker in your pool, it's hunting Rambo right now. I'm reading it circling below. Then the animal is finished, Varrell said. No, Marcus replied, his voice tight. Your lurker is. The water erupted. The deepwater lurker rose like a nightmare from the depths, tentacles spreading in a corona of death. Each appendage was thick as a human thigh, covered in suckers the size of dinner plates, barbs gleaming wetly. Its beak clicked open and closed, capable of shearing through bone. Rambo, still holding the sample container in his mouth, looked at the creature with what could only be described as irritation. The lurker struck, 3 tentacles lashing out simultaneously. Rambo dropped the container, which Jake would later retrieve, and went to work. The honey badger became a whirling dervish of teeth and claws. He bit a tentacle, his jaws powered by muscles designed to crack open tortoise shells. The lurker recoiled, and Rambo used the momentum to climb onto another tentacle like it was a rope. He scurried up toward the creature's main body, ignoring the barbs that should have shredded him but mostly just caught in his loose skin. Impossible, breathed the Provisional general. Those barbs are coated with paralytic venom. Honey badgers have evolved resistance to neurotoxins, Dr. Okonkwo reminded him. Snake venom, bee venom, scorpion venom. Their bodies process toxins differently. That paralytic? It'll slow him down eventually, but not before he makes his point. And what a point it was. Rambo reached the lurker's head and went straight for its eyes. The creature thrashed wildly, diving deep, trying to dislodge this insane attacker. But honey badgers could hold their breath for extended periods, a trait developed from raiding underground beehives and digging out burrowing prey. The water churned violently. Blood began to cloud the pool, dark purple mixing with red. The lurker surfaced again, and Rambo was still there, clinging to its head, systematically destroying every sensory organ he could reach. The creature made a sound, something between a whistle and a scream, that the observation room's audio pickups barely captured. Then it did something Varrell had never seen a lurker do. It retreated to the deepest part of the pool, and didn't come back up. Rambo surfaced, paddled back to shore, shook himself vigorously, picked up the sample container he'd dropped, and waddled over to Jake as if nothing unusual had happened. Jake took the container, checked it was sealed properly, then looked at Rambo with something like awe. "You're a terrifying little monster, you know that?" Rambo made a satisfied grunt and began grooming himself. The observation room had gone completely silent. Finally, Jalix spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "That lurker has defeated Krogian warriors in full battle armor. It once killed a Morvathian berserker, and they're classified as Class 6 combatants. And it just got beaten by something that weighs maybe 30 pounds. The Krogian general finished, sounding dazed. "Technically, Dr. Okonkwo's voice came through. "Rambo weighs about 25 pounds. He's a bit small for his species. That somehow made it worse." The humans pressed on, now with only one objective remaining: reach the extraction point. They moved through Sector 8, a rocky badlands area with extreme temperature fluctuations. "Release the Skorax," Varrell ordered, his voice hollow. "If nothing else can stop them, maybe that will." The Skorax was his trump card. An arthropod from the volcanic world of Pyros 3. It stood 8 feet tall, had an exoskeleton that could withstand plasma fire, and mandibles that could snap steel girders. It was aggressive, territorial, and utterly merciless. It emerged from a cave system, screeching its challenge, multiple eyes fixed on the intruders in its domain. The humans immediately went into defensive positions, Jake raising his stick, Marcus gripping his machete. Dr. Okonkwo pulled out some kind of spray canister from her pack. Rambo, who had been riding on Jake's backpack, climbed down and waddled forward. "Here we go again," Jake muttered. But this time was different. The Skorax was smart enough to recognize a threat when it saw one. It had watched the humans progress through the biodome via pheromone trails and territorial markers. It knew these creatures were dangerous. The honey badger and the giant scorpion-like alien stared at each other. Rambo made his noise. That terrible, primal sound that seemed to convey absolute willingness to fight anything, anywhere, for any reason or no reason at all. The Skorax hesitated. "It's analyzing threat potential," Jalix noted, checking her readouts. "Computing whether the fight is worth the energy expenditure and potential injury." "And?" Varrell asked. "And it's deciding the answer is no." The Skorax backed away slowly, maintaining eye contact with Rambo, then retreated into its cave system. Not running. Exactly. But definitely choosing discretion over valor. Rambo squeaked triumphantly and returned to the humans, who looked equal parts proud and exasperated. "Did that thing just intimidate a Skorax through sheer attitude?" one of the observers asked. "Apparently," Varrell replied weakly. The humans reached the extraction point with 43 minutes to spare. They'd completed all 3 objectives, survived every encounter, and their only injuries were minor scratches and bruises. Jake had a nasty welt from a glancing blow by the Venrek. Dr. Okonkwo had twisted her ankle crossing the ravine. Marcus had a cut on his forearm from a thorny plant. Rambo was completely unharmed, unless you counted being slightly damp and annoyed about it. Back in the conference room, Varrell found himself looking at the humans and their honey badger companion with entirely new perspective. The small creature was now eating something that looked like jerky, making satisfied grunting sounds. "I need to understand," Varrell said finally. "That animal. Rambo. He's not enhanced? No genetic modifications, no cybernetics, no combat programming? Pure natural honey badger," Marcus confirmed. "Well, we did give him his vaccines and regular vet checkups. Does that count as enhancement?" "That's not what I mean, and you know it." Dr. Okonkwo pulled up another holographic display, this one showing Earth's evolutionary timeline. "Commander, let me explain what Earth is." Our planet doesn't just produce predators. It produces an arms race. For millions of years, predators got bigger, faster, more lethal, and prey evolved to counter them. Then, some prey stopped running altogether. They evolved defenses so effective, so aggressive, that predators learned to avoid them. She zoomed in on various species: honey badgers, wolverines, shrews that can kill snakes, cassowaries that can disembowel with a kick, mantis shrimp that can break aquarium glass, and humans, who looked at every predator on the planet and said, "We can outsmart that." Earth, Marcus continued, is what happens when evolution gets competitive. Really competitive. Species don't just adapt, they over-adapt. They develop solutions that go way beyond the minimum necessary for survival. Honey badgers didn't need to be immune to cobra venom and fight leopards. They just needed to avoid them. But evolution on Earth doesn't do half measures. Rambo finished his snack and burped. Somehow even his burp sounded aggressive. Jalix had been reviewing data on her terminal. Now she looked up, her scales pale. "Commander, I've been comparing Earth's evolutionary pressure metrics to other known worlds. Earth ranks in the 98th percentile for predator diversity, the 96th for venom complexity, and the 99th for resource competition intensity." "Meaning?" the Krogian general asked. "Meaning Earth is one of the most hostile, competitive environments we've ever documented. Not the absolute worst, but close. Species there don't just survive. They have to fight for every meal, every territory, every mating opportunity. The ones that made it to the modern era are the absolute elite survivors of millions of years of brutal selection pressure." Varrell felt something he rarely experienced: genuine respect mixed with healthy fear. "So when we assess humanity, we're not just assessing another spacefaring species. We're assessing the product of one of the galaxy's most vicious evolutionary crucibles." "Exactly." Marcus nodded. "Marcus. And we brought Rambo, because he represents that principle in its purest form. Humans are smart, adaptable, social. We have technology and culture and art. But strip all that away, and you're left with the same core trait that honey badgers have: absolute refusal to quit. We don't win because we're the strongest. We win because we're too stubborn to lose. And because we're willing to get creative when things get difficult," Jake added. "Rambo fights lurkers with teeth and claws, because that's what he's got. We fight them with strategy, tools, teamwork. Same attitude, different methods." Dr. Okonkwo stood and walked to the window, looking out at Earth hanging in the void. "You asked why Earth has no apex predators left, Commander. It's not because we killed them all out of malice. It's because we filled that ecological niche ourselves. Humans became the apex predator by being more adaptable than anything else. And species like honey badgers survived by being too much trouble to bother with. There's a saying on Earth," Marcus said quietly, "about Rambo's kind specifically. Honey badger don't care. It sounds flippant, but it's profound. It means that all the normal rules, the hierarchies, the power structures, they don't apply. A honey badger doesn't care if you're bigger, stronger, more venomous. It will fight you anyway, and it will make you regret the encounter even if you win." Rambo chose that moment to notice his reflection in the polished conference table and began making aggressive postures at it, apparently deciding his own reflection was a worthy opponent. "He's fighting himself now," Jalix observed. "That's very on brand for him," Jake replied fondly. Varrell stood, his decision crystallizing. "I need to make my recommendation to the full council. This will require deliberation." "Take your time," Marcus said. "We've waited this long." 3 days later, the council convened in full session. Representatives from 47 species filled the amphitheater-style chamber, their various forms creating a rainbow of biological diversity. Varrell stood at the central podium, his report compiled and ready. "Honored council members," he began, "I have completed my assessment of humanity's application for council membership. My findings are as follows." He pulled up footage from the Biodome assessment. The council watched in silence as the humans navigated challenges, as Jake faced down the Venrek, as Rambo fought the lurker. "Humanity possesses no natural weapons," Varrell continued. "No armor, no venom, no extraordinary physical capabilities. By all conventional metrics, They should not have survived on their homeworld, let alone achieved spaceflight. Then why are we considering them? Demanded a counselor from the Aquarian delegation, her gills fluttering with disdain. Because, Varrell replied, they demonstrate something perhaps more valuable than raw physical capability. They demonstrate adaptability, problem-solving, and perhaps most importantly, psychological resilience that borders on madness. He played the clip of Rambo facing the Skorax again. This creature, a honey badger, weighs approximately 11 kilograms. The Skorax it confronted masses 400 kilograms and possesses armor plating that can withstand military-grade weaponry. By every logical calculation, the honey badger should have fled or been killed. Instead, it intimidated the Skorax into retreat through sheer force of attitude. The council murmured amongst themselves. The humans brought this animal specifically to demonstrate a point, Varrell continued. Earth produced numerous apex predators throughout its history. Massive carnivores, venomous reptiles, creatures with natural weaponry that surpasses most military hardware. Those predators are now mostly extinct. Some through environmental change, yes, but many through direct competition with humanity or species like honey badgers that simply refuse to acknowledge the food chain. Jalek stood, having been granted permission to speak. Honored Council, I've analyzed Earth's evolutionary data. Their planet has been, statistically, one of the most hostile environments we've documented. High predator diversity, extreme environmental fluctuations, intense resource competition, species that survive. There are survivors in the truest sense. They've been tested by millions of years of brutal selection pressure. Are you saying they're dangerous? The Krogian general asked. I'm saying they're resilient. Jalek corrected. There's a difference. A dangerous species attacks others. A resilient species survives regardless of what attacks it. Humanity and their ecosystem companions like honey badgers represent resilience taken to an extreme. The Aquarian counselor wasn't convinced. Resilience doesn't equal qualification for council membership. We need species that contribute to galactic stability, not disrupt it. Varrell had anticipated this. Then consider this. Humanity eliminated their apex predators not through destruction but through becoming the apex themselves. They filled that ecological role through intelligence and cooperation. They're predators when they need to be. But they're also diplomats, scientists, artists, philosophers. They're complex. He pulled up the final piece of footage, the moment after extraction, when the humans had been checked by medical staff. Rambo had been slightly groggy from the accumulated venom in his system, nothing dangerous but enough to slow him down. Jake had carried him gently, speaking softly, keeping him comfortable, the fierce warrior caring for his fierce companion. They're also loyal, Varrell added, to their own kind, and to creatures they've bonded with. That honey badger could have been left behind when it became affected by toxins. Instead, they prioritized his well-being over speed. That suggests a species capable of compassion even in tactical situations. The council deliberated. Arguments flew back and forth, some species supporting humanity's admission, others opposed. Finally, the chief arbiter, an ancient being from a species so old they'd achieved biological immortality, raised one crystalline appendage for silence. The question before us, the arbiter said in a voice like singing crystal, is not whether humans are like us. Clearly, they are not. The question is whether they possess qualities that would benefit this council. Commander Varrell, what is your recommendation? Varrell took a breath, thinking about everything he'd witnessed. The humans facing the Venrec with nothing but determination and a stick. Dr. Okonkwo's calm analysis under pressure. Marcus's strategic thinking. Jake's raw courage. And Rambo, that ridiculous, terrifying, absolutely unstoppable honey badger, who decided that the laws of nature were more like suggestions. My recommendation, Varrell said clearly, is approval. Humanity should be granted Provisional Council membership with full review in 5 standard years. They have proven themselves survivors, problem solvers, and warriors when necessary. More importantly, they've shown us something we'd forgotten. That strength isn't just about natural weapons or size. It's about refusing to surrender even when logic says you should. The vote was called. It was closer than Varrell had hoped but ultimately successful. Humanity was in. Back on Earth, 6 months later, Jake sat in a suburban backyard with Rambo curled up next to him, both of them enjoying the sunshine. His communicator chimed with a message from Ambassador Reeves. Council approved our first joint mission proposal, the message read, exploration team to uncharted sector. They specifically requested that Rambo be included. Apparently word has spread about the fearless Earth creature and several species want to study him. Jake laughed, scratching behind Rambo's ears. The honey badger opened one eye, considered whether the attention was adequate, decided it was acceptable, and went back to sleep. Hear that, buddy? You're famous across the galaxy now. Rambo made a sound that clearly communicated he didn't care about fame. He cared about naps. Yeah, Jake agreed. That's fair. In orbit above Earth, on the newly established human embassy station, Marcus and Dr. Okonkwo reviewed the mission parameters with Commander Varrell, who'd volunteered to serve as liaison officer for humanity's integration into Council operations. I still can't believe they requested Rambo specifically, Dr. Okonkwo said, amused. Word travels fast, Varrell replied. A creature that fought a lurker and won? That intimidated a Skorax? The scientific community is fascinated. The military is concerned. And every species with prey instincts is mildly terrified. He's just a honey badger, Marcus said mildly. Just a honey badger, Varrell repeated. Ambassador, there is no just about that animal. He represents everything the galaxy finds both admirable and alarming about Earth. Tenacity that defies logic. Aggression that ignores size differences. And complete utter fearlessness in the face of any threat. So basically, he's perfect for first contact situations with unknown species. Dr. Okonkwo grinned. If they can handle Rambo, they can handle anything. Varell's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. I'm not sure whether that's brilliant strategy or insanity. Why not both? Marcus suggested. That's kind of humanity's thing. We do the smart, crazy thing that somehow works. I'm learning that, Varrell admitted. He looked out at Earth, that blue-green marble that had produced both nuclear weapons and classical music, space elevators and nature reserves, warriors and poets. Your species is going to change the Council, you know. Already has, really. We've started reassessing our definitions of strength, our assumptions about what makes an effective member species. Good, Marcus said simply. Maybe we'll all learn something. That's kind of the point of cooperation, isn't it? Down on Earth, in that suburban backyard, Rambo woke from his nap, yawned enormously, and waddled over to investigate a suspicious noise coming from the neighbor's yard. It turned out to be a very surprised raccoon, which took one look at the honey badger and wisely decided to be somewhere else. Rambo, satisfied that his territory was secure, returned to his sunny spot. He had no idea he'd become a galactic ambassador. He had no idea that his species was now famous across 1,000 worlds. He had no idea that xenobiologists from dozens of planets were requesting samples of honey badger DNA to study their remarkable adaptations. He was just Rambo, the honey badger, living his best life, not caring about anything because that's what honey badgers do. And somewhere in the observation room of a distant space station, species from across the galaxy watched archived footage of Earth's creatures and had one universal thought. Maybe picking fights with that planet was a bad idea after all. Because Earth had no apex predators left, not because they'd been destroyed, but because they'd evolved into something else. Into partners, into companions, into examples of what survival really meant. And at the top of that evolutionary ladder, honey badgers and humans stood together, both products of the same brutal, beautiful, unforgiving world that taught one simple lesson: adapt, persist, and never, ever give up. No matter what the universe threw at them, they'd face it the same way they always had, with determination, creativity, and if necessary, teeth and claws. Because in the end, that's what survivors do. They survive.